hello and welcome to our series on Russia versus Ukraine. I'm Joseph, and together with my good old friend Philip, we've started this series, I think, 2 weeks before the invasion, and we were trying to explain to Romanians, but we are based in Romania and commenting this conflict from here. We were trying to let our friends know first on what's going on at the border between Russia and Ukraine, about the Russian troops that were there, and we've followed the whole development of the events in the last few weeks already. And we've decided to have this episode in English, as well as we want to explain to a wider audience on what's going on in Romania in this conflict and how Romania stands actually, and what are our attitudes and what is our involvement actually in this crisis.
So let's start by clarifying a bit where Romania stands literally on the map, because we've seen in the Western Europe media, different sorts of maps, which were putting us in different other places. And we can say for sure that Russia is the only occupying country at this point, and we're not occupying other territories. As you can see in this map, we have a direct border with Ukraine in two areas, in the north and in southeast. We have a shore in the Black Sea. Many Ukrainian refugees cross the border to Romania. Not as many as did into Poland or to Hungary, maybe. And I think there's a clear explanation to that. Romania is very close to the conflict, and it's also in the south. It's not towards the west as Poland is, or Hungary. And from the numbers we have, over 100,000 Ukrainians have entered into Romania, but a big part of that already left further to the west. And it's probably because Romania maybe is not such a developed country as, Germany or Austria is. But in the same time, its proximity towards the conflict zone makes this not as safe as Germany sounds like. So in this aspect, we have, I think, three major border points, two up in the north and one in the southeast. That area in the southeast, though, is a bit, it's not that easy. I mean, we don't have a road border. That's the Danube Delta there. Ukrainians are actually crossing the border on ships to get into Romania. How do you see this Romania's position so very close to the conflict? Are you afraid of it? I know that you're talking from Timișoara, which is very close to our western border. I'm in Bucharest, which is, well, a bit closer maybe to Ukraine.
It's been a very, let's say, serious development for us as a country. As you mentioned, we have Ukraine as a neighbor. And we have to point out that the proximity that we have to the current state of affairs should put us on alert. We shouldn't panic, but it's definitely happening in our backyard, or happening very close to us. But I think this is something that we've already realized 8 years ago. I mean, in 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea. Crimea is about I think 400 kilometers away from us. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely very close to us. Regarding the developments in the last days, I'm very happy regarding the way that Romanian society has reacted towards this. And here I want to underline that it's private citizens or NGOs who have done a lot of things in order to support the Ukrainians coming across the border. I'm very happy that people mobilized so quickly and have provided, I think, a good support to the women and children, especially who have come from Ukraine. Regarding the, let's say, the aspect that we're mainly a transit point, yes, this is definitely true for the last week, but it remains to be seen. We might have to see if people will start coming from the Republic of Moldova over to us. That's a big question mark. And obviously one of the points why we are a transit, let's say, country is that many Ukrainians also have relatives who have been working abroad. So it's only natural for them to go and seek their family who might be in the UK or in Germany or somewhere else. So I wouldn't compare it to, let's say, another refugee wave that we've seen in the last years, it's only natural that the most vulnerable people are fleeing from harm's way.
Just another thing to add about where Romania stands in this whole regional situation. So we're a member country in NATO since 2004, and also a EU member state since 2007. And it's important to mention the fact that being a NATO member country, we are somehow not a target or not a prime target for Russia. And it also comes with a certain of security measures. And maybe you can get into details a bit. We do have a NATO military presence in Romania.
I would say that NATO presence in our country has increased gradually. As you mentioned, we became a member in 2004, but then things have started to slowly and gradually build up. We have a base close to the Black Sea where we've had major US presence there near Constanța, also because it was used as a, let's say, a transfer hub for troops coming and going from Afghanistan. And then the other important milestone that we had was the missile defense system at Deveselu in the, let's say, southern part of the country, which is under NATO and US command, and together with the other location in Poland provides a significant presence here. And during the last years, especially after 2014 and the invasion of Crimea, we've had what has been called an enhanced presence, again, very close to the Black Sea. And this has been mainly focused on fighter aircraft. We've had several NATO countries who have rotated and had missions here. At the moment, we have fighter planes from Italy, also from Germany, who have doubled their presence. We also have US planes coming from Germany and relocating near Constanța. And it's not only fighter planes, but it's also troops. We've had around 1,000 US military personnel arrive here. And also this week, the first French troops have arrived again close to Constanța, and the first Belgian troops have left Belgium and are coming to join the other troops here in Romania.
We've already mentioned the fact that Romania has a shore in the Black Sea. What about what's going on there? So Black Sea would be basically literally the border with Russia. I mean, we have direct contact with Russia towards the Black Sea. We know that they have ships there, and we know that the war zone conflict in the southern part of Ukraine seems to be extending, or at least it would be very easy for them to extend towards Odessa, to the west. And Odessa is quite close to Romania. What can we say about our, naval capabilities, or how do we stand on this part?
We have to be honest and admit that at the moment our naval capabilities are somewhat limited. We do have warships, but their capability is rather limited at the moment. We are going through a process of acquiring newer and much better equipped ships, but this has been dragging on for some time now. I would have to say that at the moment, the strongest NATO presence in the Black Sea is coming from Turkey, who is much more capable than, let's say, Bulgaria or us. But I think that the Russian invasion in Ukraine should definitely make us accelerate the process of modernizing and also enlarging our Navy to really be able to provide a strong NATO presence also in the Black Sea.
So for the moment, we know that there are French and American ships in the Mediterranean, right? And they could enter into the Black Sea, but in some specific conditions, I guess.
Yeah, I think it might be interesting for the viewers to find out that the access to the Black Sea, at least for warships, is regulated by Turkey, because obviously they have the straits between the Mediterranean Sea and the Black Sea. So even if we have warships, let's say, coming from France or from the US, okay, they can gain access to the Black Sea, but they can remain there only for a limited period of time. This is why it's really important for also Romania to develop its own capabilities.
I think it's important to tackle the topic of what Romanians think about this conflict and, more important, about Russia. So we do have a history with Russia, and specifically with the Russian army. We're not quite friends. I would say that the attitude towards Russia is very, very, very clear. We're not supporting them at all. I mean, sure, there are maybe individuals or different voices, but very silent, that could, say maybe we should be more close to Putin, or maybe we should support Russia. But that's quite unheard. I mean, there are just some random posts over the internet. The general attitude is against Russia and is totally supporting Ukraine in this very moment. I think it's important to make this mention, because we do have other neighbors, and let's just name them, in Serbia, Hungary, whose attitudes are a bit more unclear or mixed, so to say. Our politicians and also, our public intellectuals, so to say, do not have this kind of weird relation with Russia, and never had in the last few years, at least. And another thing to add is that, unlike, let's say, Hungary or Poland in the last, 3 to 4 or 5 years, our conservatives didn't gain that much power, or were not able to shift the Romanian's position towards East. We remain quite liberal in the last 10 years. Of course, we did have our ups and downs. We had our own corruption cases and such, as well as, any other country. But in terms of, having a clear relation with Russia, that was always the same, I think, since, maybe the end of World War I. And I think another aspect that it's important to talk about, what is Romania's dependence on Russian gas and oil. I think we're in quite a good position, compared to Germany or Italy even. According to the numbers we have, Romania imports only around 20% from our necessities from Russia. So 80% we're able to produce ourselves or import from somewhere else. What do you think about this?
At least it's not very worrying, let's say, for the moment. So even if we have to import about 20% of gas, due to the fact that we also have a local production, I think this makes things a little bit easier for us. The challenge will be to also start accessing and also start exploiting the resources that were discovered in the Black Sea in our territorial waters. And I think this will definitely provide us with an advantage, at least for the local consumption, and we'll also be able to support our neighbors as well in terms of gas, natural gas. Coming back a little bit to, let's say, the stance of Romanians towards Russians, yes, you're absolutely right. There is some history between us, let's say. It's well, you could say it started really at the moment that we gained our independence in 1870s, 1880s. Then we had major break in World War I, and then episodes in World War II, and also during the Cold War. So, yeah, also the polls are showing us that Romanians are extremely favorable towards the European Union and also towards NATO. We won't have too many sympathies, or not at all, towards Russia. And I think this was also a consequence of the fact that our economic relations with them are rather limited. Apart from importing energy resources, our economic exchanges with them are, I would say, very limited. So at the moment, there is no impact for us in terms of this.
The economical impact is quite insignificant. I mean, we don't have Russian goods on our markets. Our imports are coming from anywhere else but Russia. And also we're not dependent on our exports as well, unlike Moldova, for example, which is very well connected.
Maybe one more thing to add would be that the current events have have only highlighted this trend. So at the moment, Romanians will be even more favorable towards NATO and European Union. We consider ourselves privileged to be a member of both, and it's also very nice for us to see that we are supported from both sides. I mean, also from NATO and also from the European Union. Definitely an advantage for us as a country.
All right, so thank you very much for watching. If we're still going to continue our series to come up with new information